Hello, my name is Jack Nurse and I am a theatre maker and director and writer, and I also run a theatre company called Wonderfuls, and we are based in Glasgow but we work across Scotland and sometimes internationally. So I am from a wee town called Kirkcudbright in Dumfries and Galloway, and so it's a town of about 2,000 people. There's not a lot happening there at all, particularly sort of culture-wise. And I sort of first tried out drama when I went to my local youth theatre, where I was a terrible actor, probably, on stage for a good many years. And the thing that really got me into deciding that I wanted to do theatre as a career and directing as a career mainly was kind of two moments when I was about 16, I want to say. The first was the youth theatre every year put on a play as part of this festival, and usually it was directed by somebody, an adult, a grown-up person who actually knew what they were doing, and they would take rehearsals and direct the show. But that year, that person stepped aside, so there was no one running the youth theatre, but we still had this show to make, and a director-shaped hole in the middle of it. And sort of because I was kind of the oldest, by default almost, I kind of stepped in to direct it, and it was my first opportunity, I suppose, of not being terrible on stage and having being able to see everything from the outside and actually being sort of the person who is coordinating all the different aspects of the production, whether that's the acting on stage or the lights or the set or the costume, every element. You're sort of the person that's pulling that together to try and tell this story for an audience. And being in that position on the outside was something that felt sort of magical, I suppose, because you're the person who ultimately is responsible for what the audience is seeing, and that felt really exciting. And the second thing was I went to see a show in Glasgow, which at the time felt like a different country. It's like 2 hours, probably 2.5 hours on the bus, maybe more. And I'd been like once or twice, so to go to Glasgow in the first place was a big thing, and to go see a show also was another big thing. And it was a production called Blackwatch by the National Theatre of Scotland, which is a sort of about a Scottish regiment in the British Army, and soldiers' sort of experience at war, and then coming back home, loads of different things, but the sort of theatricality and the way that it used things like movement and music, and all these like really incredible moments, was really, really cool. It was actually directed by the same person who went on to direct the Harry Potter West End show. It's called John Tiffany, and just the way that he approaches theatre is incredible. And the special thing about Blackwatch was that it was in thrust staging, so you had audience on one side, the action of the play in the middle, and the rest of the audience on the other side facing in, so you could see the audience opposite you. And what that meant was, for a play like Blackwatch, when your mind was getting blown, you could see the audience across from you's mind getting blown as well. And when it was a really emotional moment in the story, you could see the audience literally crying on the other side. So I had these sort of twin moments where I had the opportunity to direct for the first time and also saw this incredible show, but also in that show, because you could see the audience, I got a sense really for the first time, I think, of the power of theatre, how it can move people, how it can entertain people, and how it can be at its best like just as special, if not more special, than watching, a Netflix show at home. And there's something about the liveness of it and coming together in real life to watch something, like when you go to a gig, that sort of energy is really, really cool. So those were the two things that got me into deciding that I kind of wanted to do this as a career. So I did a course at the Royal Conservatoire of Scotland called Contemporary Performance Practice, which I chose deliberately because I knew that I didn't want to be an actor, and we already know that I'm terrible. And I knew that I didn't really want to do sort of traditional theatre either. I was interested in stuff that was new and what you'd call sort of contemporary, stuff that to me felt more interesting and more about actual people's lives. Both in terms of what the stories were about, but also how the stories were told. They always felt more theatrical, and that was what I was into. So that's why I chose the course, and that was a 4-year course. And the great thing about that was in the 4th year you sort of get to choose ultimately kind of what you get to do. You get to carve out your own sort of pathway, and that led to me going on a placement at the Citizens Theatre in Glasgow, where I was an assistant director for the first time, and that was my first sort of professional experience of a rehearsal room and what it was like to work with professional actors and a director and a creative team. And that's really through that work experience how I started to learn exactly what it is to be a director. And I did a lot of assistant directing for like 2 or 3 years. Some of that was unpaid, and I had to work late hours at a sort of university union bar at the weekends to pay my way, and some of it eventually was paid as well. And so I had to work quite hard in terms of getting those experiences, but what those experiences taught me was invaluable. That sort of first-hand learning off incredible people who are vastly more experienced than you, have been working for years. That was really my first taste of what it's like to work on a professional production. So my typical day, there's 2 typical days. One typical day is when I'm not in rehearsals. I'm usually writing funding applications or looking at budgets for my theatre company, or in meetings about boring things like a board meeting because we're a charity, or fun things like creative meetings thinking about the design of a next show. The second type of day, which I've just had, is by far my favourite day, which is a rehearsal day. So I'm in rehearsals for a pantomime at the moment, A Christmas Carol. To talk through my day, the start of the day was checking in. I had a sort of meeting at about 9:30 with the production team, talking about the plan for the day. And the set was brought in today, so that was really exciting. So we were chatting about how the set worked and the practicalities of the different bits of furniture and that sort of thing, how they move, how they fit together. Ahead of the actors coming in. The actors came in at 10. And what I like to do at the beginning of a rehearsal day, because I think that it relaxes people and makes people want to come to work, is we always play a couple of silly games. So we played this ball game called Rectangle Ball, which I won't describe, but it's very fun and warms everybody up at the same time. We played that for like half an hour, and then we started to rehearse the play, and we worked from the beginning, and we tried. I sort of call things drafts, so we made first drafts of every scene for the first sort of 15 pages. That included some scenes, included some songs, included some choreography, and there's a chorus who came in at the end of the day at 4:00, who is like 24 young people who are going to be in the show as well. So then we had a quite mad rehearsal with them, fitting them all into the show. So it was a very fun day, and the best part of my job really is I get to work with incredible creative people, whether that's actors on stage or designers off stage, and my sort of role really is to collaborate with every member of the team with a sort of overarching focus, I suppose, on what is the story we're telling, what's the best way of telling that story, what's the most exciting way of telling that story for audiences, and collaborating with everybody else who in their own right is the expert in terms of, you know, the designer, the composer, the lighting designer, the stage manager, the actor on stage. Everyone brings their own ideas, and it's a real melting pot. It's exciting, creative hub, bringing a show to life. The skills I think are necessary for this job, probably a good communicator, somebody who is clear, is about a sort of opening a dialogue with somebody else, somebody who's warm, and open, sensitive, collaborative. That word I used before, someone who wants to work with other people, because theatre is a super collaborative art form. Somebody who's organised, somebody who is creative. I think when you think of theatre making, often it's like creativity, and of course that's absolutely at the heart of what we do, but equally, like, you've got to be able to like schedule, as a director, you've got to be able to schedule your day. You're managing a team of 20, 30 people, and you're in charge of what their experience is day to day, so having a sort of positive outlook is really helpful as well. And actually, theatre processes, whether that's in rehearsals or when you get into a tech week in the venue, they always throw up surprises. There's always the unexpected in a process. So keeping a level head, being calm, being measured in how you react to those things is always super helpful as well. So those are the things that I think I try to sort of act on when I'm a director in a room or working on a project. And yeah, those are the sort of skills I think, or sort of ways of being that I think would be super useful. So what has been my biggest achievement so far? Two come to mind. One is the brutally honest one, and that is the single achievement is probably earning a living out of doing what I do. I'm sort of 10 years into this career, and probably for the first 5 years of that I was still working part-time in bars, doing loads of different odd jobs to supplement my theatre career, and then for the second half of that time I've earned my living solely through working on projects, writing, directing, running the theatre company, and for me, because I know how hard it is to do that, that feels to me a real achievement, and it's probably just worth being totally transparent about that. And I really think that I'm positive about the future in terms of what the landscape looks like for people leaving school and coming into the industry, so things that will hopefully be better, but it's not something you get into necessarily to be a millionaire, but it's something that you do because you love it, first and foremost, but that's not enough to pay the bills. So actually doing something that you love and getting paid for it, to me, is the greatest achievement. The second achievement that I'd like to speak about really briefly is a project that I'm really proud of being a part of, and that was being the co-writer on a project called Same Team. That was a play on at the Edinburgh Festival last year. And me and Robbie, who was my co-writer on the project, we spent about 2 years working with a homeless women's football team to co-create a play with them that was about their experiences going to what's called the Homeless World Cup. This incredible story, not autobiographical, but we worked with them to develop characters and a story that was similar to how their experiences in real life were. And it was the most joyful, fun process to be a part of. And obviously co-creating and collaborating with other people about their lives is something that's really amazing, but also sensitive. And there was a moment at the end of that process, after working with them for 2 years, where we presented back the show to that group of people for the first time, and they brought all their families, other players and coaches that they knew, and there was about 200 people in the auditorium, and we were nervous. We were just could not be calm beforehand, because we so wanted it to go well and for them to like it. And luckily you could hear a pin drop the entire time. People were laughing in the right places, people were crying in the right places, and people absolutely loved it. And at the end, all the players came on stage and met the actors, and it was this a real emotional and unique day, and it's kind of all why I do what I do, which is about sort of working with real people to tell their stories on stage in the most exciting, engaging way as possible, and that was a brilliant moment. Some of the advice I would give to people thinking about entering the arts or the theatre industry is go see as much as you can, figure out what you like, and just as importantly, figure out what you don't like. Read plays if you have access to them, your local library will have them. Figure out what are the types of stories that you're interested in telling, what resonates with you about the world we live in, and go from there really, because there's no point going into this if you don't know what it is that you want to do and what you like and what your tastes are. So knowing who you are as a person, and therefore a writer, a director, an artist, an actor, is really important. So go see as much as you can, soak up as much as you can, plays, even films, TV programs, like just analyse as much as you can how are stories told. Theatre is a storytelling medium. So yeah, get your storytelling antennae out. And then I guess never be afraid to email or speak to somebody, and knock on people's doors, figuratively but also literally as well. Email people. Don't be afraid to ask people for an opportunity, because nothing's ever handed to people in theatre. You've got to sort of say, hey, this is what I want to do, this is what I'm about, and by and large people will be up for supporting. So don't be afraid to ask questions of people, basically. And yeah, just enjoy it as well. There's no point in going into something like theatre hating it. So have fun while you do it, enjoy working with the people that you do, and lastly, just try and make as much work as you can. And what do I mean by making work? I mean putting on plays, writing plays, wee snippets of plays, really practicing your skill set by actually doing the thing, rather than talking about it or thinking about it or reading about it in a book. Actually doing it is how you're going to learn. So yeah, all the best, and thank you so much.